April 18, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. It was 5:30, which was about right here. The unemployment claims came out, and it didn't really look like it moved the market. This is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows just roughly here. It didn't look like it obeyed the range all that much, but price action itself, you could say, was probably within a larger 55-point range, roughly, or 57-point range. And most of the price action happened as a big sell-off, a rally, another push-up, then two-leg sell-off into a range. So I don't really know what to call this. It kind of looks like a head and shoulders with one shoulder head and another shoulder. So maybe prices are going to move back down, but we really don't know. I took only one trade today, which is right here. It wasn't the best one. It was a little aggressive. And in hindsight, if I'd waited a couple more minutes, then a better setup would have shown up, would have been also safer. So I'll go through my trade when I get there. Overall price action, there was the volume definitely has dropped since yesterday, which was this, because it was a big sell-off. I took 3 trades and was profitable on 3. It bounced around. It wasn't, I would say, as clean as yesterday, and there were a few setups, but there are also a few more almost setups. So also I want to just point out that I found this trend line coming down, but I couldn't really make it fit as a clean channel. So most of the time I was looking for a short when this price action was unfolding anyways. So I guess you could maybe place it down here, but it looked like if you put it here or here, it didn't really confirm a second time, so it wasn't really that useful. So I'm gonna go into the trade right now. So in the pre-market, there was this big rally up. It made 2 legs down, or, depending on how you looked at it, maybe 3 legs, but I saw kind of 1 leg down, a correction, another leg down, then 2 legs up. This is in the pre-market, so I don't really trade the pre-market, but I did notice there was some kind of respect given to a potential downward trend line. It kind of pushed up here, and then it consolidated right before the open. So now the prices are actually opening. Technically, you have a new high here. You have a first entry long just barely here. Technically, a second entry long, but this is just too congested. I don't really like this and taking a trade here. Plus, I'm going to be potentially buying into this resistance. Prices started to move down, breaks out of this trading range, and I'm watching. So technically, the lows of the pre-market is where this red line is, but I placed the lows of the pre-market range right here because it looked like it confirmed once, twice, 3 times pretty well. So I'm watching carefully if there's going to be a bounce here. It touches and now it breaks through, but then it keeps going. So it's not respecting this pre-market low at all. Has a small little breakout, consolidates sideways, then continues down, breaks out. You could say there's a small break and it potentially reaches a new low, but this is a cleaner, larger break. Hits the EMA. It looks like it's about to stall, but then it pushes slowly through. I saw this as potentially a new high. It's a first entry long, potentially a second entry long. I thought this might have been a possible trade because it's a break of this orange channel, so you're expecting it to test the highs. EMA is somewhat holding, but it's a little early to trust it fully because it moves so far away. Now it's trying to push back up and over. But if you did want to take this trade, because this is also an inside bar, it's a little more aggressive. I would have waited for this candle to form to have the confirmed second entry long. But what I do like about this signal bar is, although it's an inside bar, the next candle ticks 1 tick below, then strongly reverses up. So you'd have to be pretty quick to kind of recognize this as maybe a first attempt up and then potentially a second attempt up to test this highs. But there was already a break on the other side. So if you drew it the way I drew it, then you would think maybe there's a chance it's going to push back down further. But if you kind of drew it higher, let's say about right here, then this small little break might not mean that much, and you could still be testing for the highs. So this trade would have to have been rather quick and engulfing, but I'm not that quick. Prices move up. So it makes the new high, pulls back, pushes again. It almost hits this trend line, but it doesn't, comes back down, follows this trend channel down, comes up and confirms this trend line again. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, this is a confirmed trend line. If there's a good setup, definitely want to take it. And then at the time, I was thinking, could I make it into a channel? It doesn't fit quite well here. Doesn't quit well. Doesn't. So I had it kind of like down here for a while. But I'm going to go ahead and put it there for now. Price is chopped sideways. You do have a new high, and you potentially are pushing down on this trend line, or getting pushed down by the trend line. Comes down. I'm thinking there's a potential trading range because prices are kind of running horizontal right now. It's also kind of dancing around the pre-market lows. I see a fail breakout. Technically, you have a new high, first entry long, pullback. You have a second entry long here, technically, because it's a new high here, matching highs. First entry long, second entry long. There is maybe a trade here if you're aggressive. It looks like if you did take it, you would have gotten a, fill. Makes first entry short, pushes up. Here creates a second entry short. So it's first entry short, second entry shorts confirmed or made on the break below this guy, and potentially a second entry short failure. But I just marked this. I felt like it was an almost trade. It's a good signal bar. It's coming from the bottom of this range and a failed breakout. The problem is it's already confirmed this downward trend line so many times, and this is a failed breakout here, but you're pushing right into it. So it feels a little dicey. EMA is a little bit harder to trust because it's kind of kind of like just flattening. And depending on how you count it, it could be one, two, three triple test after a failed breakout. So this is kind of like an almost trade. It's not something I'm too crazy about, but it's just something I noticed because I was thinking in real time, is like, is there a trade here? Because it had a violation here and it's trying to push up and hit the other side of this trading range. It could be one leg up, pull back, a second leg up. So the only reason I marked it because in real time I was debating taking this trade, but I think it's better that I not take that trade. Looked like it pushed up and it would have worked though. Of course, you don't know that in real time. Then prices continue moving up. Here is potentially a triple test. One, two. I don't really like this triple test because it's not super clean because it's here, open here, and it pushed up. So you don't really say that it was a push attempt down. This is a clear attempt down. This is also a clear attempt down. Now, if you counted this one as 1, 2, and 3, this is very close together, so I'd only really count it as a double test. Flashes up, it looks like I'm in a range, but then I also drew this upward yellow up channel. It fit pretty well. No clean entries that I could find or feel comfortable with. Pushes up, EMA is tracking up. And here I noticed that it's hitting the pre-market high now. So it had one attempt here, second attempt, now it's flashing back down, which is great because kind of confirming that the pre-market highs might be a potential resistance. So you could be trading in a larger range right now. Prices then start reversing. So I'm here watching if it's going to bounce off the EMA because you have two key entry points, which is the EMA and this potential support of this yellow up channel. Unfortunately, there's no setup, so you can't just take it based upon, well, it's bouncing off the EMA, bouncing off of this potential support of this yellow up channel. In this case, it looked like it would have worked though, but that just happened to be that it worked. It comes back down a second time, so you could be arguing for another trade here. What I do think that this trade does have going for it is it makes a double bottom, bounces off the EMA, bounces off this, and it closed up higher than this guy. So it is engulfing. So maybe there's a trade here, but I just decided to leave it alone. I was wondering if this is a failed breakout the pre-market high, so it might reverse back down. But you have such a strong bullish bias. So I'm taking all this in, but it's not obvious enough, at least with my skill level, to know there's a trade here or not. So I defaulted to there's probably no trade, just leave it alone. Looked like it would have worked though. But then here you have a new high, first entry long pullback. You clearly have a second entry long here. So this is a possible trade. It is the first break of this yellow up channel, but breakouts tend to fail. So it's a breakout, so you're thinking prices might move back in. It kind of shows you that it's going to do that because the EMA is holding. Although this support of this yellow up channel isn't holding, it closed right back inside and ticked above. So there's also enough room to get to the highs. So this is a possible trade, I think. I just want to point out that when you see this, I think I would have put my entry at the high of this original signal bar, which would have been right here. It wouldn't have gotten filled here, but seeing this, when I see this, I don't think I necessarily would have abandoned the trade because I would have seen, okay, it's kind of confirming this yellow up channel, so I probably would have stuck around, and then this trade would have picked me up and filled the trade exit. Goes back down, so now it's bouncing again, but it's also breaking out, so I'm a little cautious here. There's also no real second entry. We have a first entry long. Am I going to get a second entry long here? Now it looks like, excuse me. Now it looks like it's breaking out of this yellow up channel, and it looks like it's entering a sideways consolidation. So you have one, two, three triple test. This isn't a good signal bar to go long on, so you don't know that yet. And then it flashes up, but it also hits this resistance. So the trade, if you're thinking of a trade, has been made. Then it flashes back down, makes an inside bar almost the same size. So this is telling me stay out of this right now. Wait for a better, more obvious price action to form. Again, you get another inside bar, which is up. Now I'm thinking, is it going to break back into this yellow up channel? It's a new high. Nothing too clean yet. Comes back down. Starts coming down on this greenish down channel. You do have a first entry long here, technically a second entry long, but this isn't a good signal bar. It's nice that it ticked one tick below and flashed up, which is telling me maybe pre-market high before was acting as resistance, and now it's acting as support because although it didn't quite touch, depending on how you drew it, you could say it's bouncing off the pre-market highs. So is there a trade here? I'm not 100% sure because I do know that this down channel wants to test its low. The yellow up channel had a break and it did test the highs already. The uptrend may have played out. I'm thinking it's one leg down, consolidation, and then another eventual leg down. Plus it's below the EMA now. So my bias right now is low, going short, but I need a proper setup. You do have a new low here, first entry short. You have a second entry short, but this here in real time doesn't tell you to go short. Then when this forms, you don't really have that much room to the lows, so you have to wait. Then it creates a lower high. So this lower high, I thought, is kind of like an almost trade because after the break of this green down channel, the second entry short does form. First entry short, second entry short. Second entry short is confirmed here. Ticks one tick above and flashes down. It creates a lower high. The problem with this is there's not that much room before I hit the lows again. And although I think it wants to test the lows of this green down channel, I can't neglect the fact that it's in a trading range or a consolidation area. So it could still chop sideways for quite a bit of time. So if I did enter here, I don't know that I get a clean scalp out, or would it just kind of stop short, bounce off of this, and then reverse up. The problem is also that this trading range that I drew, it's subjective. It could because the price action isn't super clean enough to have clean definitive. Well, you have highs here, but clean definitive lows because it actually be slightly lower. It might be down here, might be here, but I put it right kind of in between. So there's some interpretation there, and I don't want to take a trade where there's some ambiguity that I'm kind of having a second guess. I'd rather have more confirmations, more solid confidence in taking the trade before I jump in on something like this particular setup. So this is what I would call kind of like an almost trade. Looks like if you did enter, you would have gotten it, but then when it closes back up here, depending on how many points you're going for, you could still be in the trade, and you could be a little nervous because it looks like it might be a failed breakout and come back up to here. So it kind of does that briefly. So it opens here. I forgot if it flashed up or down, but it flashed around and then it kind of ended up back down here. So now it looks like it is starting its second leg down. No clean entries. I drew this purple downtrend trend line first. I didn't have this purple as an up channel yet, or not up channel, but as a channel yet. As a breakout above the EMA, then it comes flushing back down. No clean second entries that I could see. Technically, have a new high here. It's a first entry long. Technically, I have a second entry long here, but it's also a break of this yellow down channel. Made a new low. You're thinking maybe it's going to flush back up for short correction. Right now, price action it's a little confusing for me because you have a strong push up consolidation, another attempt up, uptrend for this yellow up channel has played out. So now one leg down consolidation, potentially you can see this is one big leg pullback and maybe a second leg, but it's getting a little choppy here. So I'm not 100% sure which way it's going to go. But I did see this as a new high. I saw this as a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. This is actually where I take my first trade. So this isn't the safest trade, in my opinion. It's a break of this yellow down channel, and it made a new low. Was you actually have a by the count first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Technically, your second entry long fails on this doji candle because it goes up and then actually breaks below this guy, or pretty much at the lows here. So I was thinking a failed second entry long. Now, this isn't a very good signal bar. So I actually saw this in real time, but for whatever reason, decided I want to take a trade. I guess it shouldn't be for whatever reason. I believe prices were going to come back down and kind of push back down to the lows, but there's nothing that says it couldn't be one leg up, pull back, make a second leg up to touch this purple, uh, I guess this down channel purple. But I took the trade. I put it at the lows of this doji bar, being super conservative. I wasn't going to try to go for a runner because I know the lows are right here, made a double bottom. I was lucky I got filled and it pushed back up. My stop was actually one tick above this guy. And this guy would have stopped me out if I was in a trade any longer. But if I had waited till this candle, this is clearly a better setup because it's new low, first entry short, pullback, potential second entry short. When you see this open here and it flashes up and comes back down, this would have been the better trade to have taken. So this is a more better trade because you also have the EMA acting as resistance. And there was like two legs up. You see one leg up, pull back, second leg up, flush down. So it didn't quite make the measured move, but you do have two clean legs up and it closed bearish below the EMA. So to think the next candle is going to open up high, you could wait. But I think had I, waited and not taken this trade, I would have put an entry, maybe a stop order, one tick below or right at the lows. And you could have seen that this would have opened here, ticked up, filled you, and then pushed down and probably gotten the trade. If not, this one definitely would have gotten you the trade. There's also a lower high, but the lower high is already looking like I wouldn't have entered. If I didn't enter on these two, this lower high definitely would not have entered because it looks like there is some kind of support potentially being respected here. So I would have abandoned the trade by then. Plus, taking the lower high, would you enter it one tick below? This is a safer entry because it's a little bit higher. So that was my one win for the day, but in hindsight, I know this wasn't the best, cleanest, safest setup. Prices move out. It breaks out of the purple channel. So I'm looking for a corresponding potential break here. So break, one leg up, but it doesn't make it. It comes reversing back down and confirms this purple down channel. Breaks out. It hits the lows again. So now I'm thinking, okay, there's one touch, two touch, three touch. Do I trust this as a support? Hard to say because it had a violation here and it did look like it was acting support, then it acted kind of like resistance, then it's acting as support again. But this could play out just like it did over here with another flush down. So although it's hitting the pre-market lows, I'm not really trusting it as a potential bounce point or support unless it's a very clean second entry of some kind. It looks like, I guess you could say this is a new high. You technically have your first entry long here, pull back. Technically, your second entry long would be right here, but this isn't even a very convincing signal bar. So if you did take it, depending on how many points you're getting, you might have been able to get a quick, maybe 1 to 2 point scalp, but it felt dicey. Prices then continue moving down, breaks out of this orange channel, consolidates, and then continues downward. So then clearly the purple down channel isn't in play anymore. So I tried to find another channel. Thought it was this orange one, but then it broke out, consolidated. So I tried to find this bigger yellow down channel, which fit pretty nicely at the tops. The bottom only confirmed twice, maybe a third time if you include it here, but it's not a very clean setup. There is one leg consolidation. I'm looking for a second leg. Goes down, it's far from the EMA. There's no clean second entry that I can trust. Unfortunately, this big move kind of happens, but it's not as clean as other sell-offs or rallies that I've seen because there are still some, you know, pullbacks. In this case, it's going down. There are some small pullbacks, big green, reversals, not reversals, but pullbacks from the overall bias of going down that you just can't ignore. If it was like, let's see, if it was something like some of these type of setups, like over here, where it's clearly pushing up and you might have small little pullbacks, then you could say, okay, it's probably safe to jump in on that downtrend. But this wasn't like that. So it's just kind of sit on my hands and wait. Plus, the EMA is far away. You'd be trusting it on the strength of this yellow down channel, which is, again, subjective. You have a new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short. And I saw this lower high, and I thought it was a possible trade. It's actually pretty decent because it breaks out of this yellow down channel, makes two legs up, and it still needs to test the lows of this yellow down channel. It's above the EMA, but I like that it ticked one tick above and then reversed strongly. So there's potentially a trade here, enough for at least a quick scalp. It looks like you would have gotten it, and it would have continued down further. Goes down on this purple down channel. Now, it could say one attempt. This could be the second attempt down to test the lows of this yellow. So in this case, maybe the yellow down channel has played out because it is starting to reverse and push back up. So I'm not necessarily certain that there's going to be continuation of further sell-off. I'm not really ready to jump on to say that it's going to be a buying rally either. I did draw this as a preliminary holding place for my possible resistance. Kind of pushes up. There is a lower high here, but unlike this lower high, there was two clean legs up. So you saw two attempts up. This is just one attempt up. So this lower high doesn't really mean all that much. Plus, this lower high closed near the EMA while this one had clearly enough room. You weren't thinking of trading range just yet, so this EMA, although it's starting to flatten out, it could still come into play. But here, it's starting to come into play a little bit less because it's starting to turn sideways. So this isn't as clean or safe a setup, so I left this one alone. Prices then continue moving down. You got a bunch of doji candles. It's a little bit not as crisp, so it's not something you feel confident taking a trade in. There's a new low here. It's a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but it's not a really good clean signal bar. Pushes up, has a potential fail breakout, and then this creates a lower high. I thought this is actually a possible trade because this setup is similar to this setup. There's one leg pullback, second leg, and then it ticked one tick above and it flushed down. You have something similar here. You might have a spike in a channel, but you have one leg. Can't argue with that. One leg pullback and a second leg. Also fail breakout here. Then it came back down, pushed up, and looked like it failed. So it broke out of this yellow up channel. Tested it, made a new high. Over here, broke out of this orange up channel, broke out and tested a new high, and then it created a lower high. So I thought this lower high is a possible trade. It's a very strong bullish, very strong bearish bar, and there's enough room pretty much all the way back down. And if you're worried about the EMA, you have enough room before you hit the EMA as well. So I thought this is a possible trade. Prices then continue down and makes two clean legs down, and it kind of hits the lows. At this point, I drew this because I was playing with this top of this range kind of earlier on. It was a little bit lower because it might have more confirmations here, and I treated this as a fail breakout. And then I actually drew it up here. So actually, when it was down here, there was another reason that I thought the lower high might have worked because it's entering the trading range at the time here. Then when it came up to here, I dragged it up here, and now I'm seeing double confirmation, two touches down here. I created as a true trading range with support down here. Prices kind of move. It creates a first entry short, second entry short, but I'm not too keen on this second entry short. I'm also thinking one leg up, pull back, and I'm expecting a second leg up to touch the highs because right now it looks like it's just chopping sideways. It breaks out of the green channel, so I'm thinking one leg up, maybe two legs pullback and then the second leg up to here. So you do have a new high here, first entry long pullback, second entry long, but this isn't a good signal bar. This purple up channel doesn't exist yet. And it has this really strong push up. And I'm expecting it to come up to this high, but it falls short, pulls back, and it keeps going. And so I'm watching this. It finally makes the high. And I'm thinking, is there a potential kind of a bigger trading trend channel coming up? Potentially. So I drew this. It kind of fits well here, but I don't respect this up channel that much yet because it hasn't earned it. It hasn't had enough price action for me to trust this. Prices come back down. It almost touches here. It touches and bounces, but there's no setup that I particularly like. There is new high, first entry long pullback. Technically, you have a second entry long here. You could say this is a potential trade here. Second entry long. The problem is it does tick one tick below and it flashes back up, but it feels because I'm still thinking trading range. So I'm seeing this. I see highs to lows to highs to lows. Even if you have a trading range a little bit tighter, and it came up to the highs, but it hasn't touched the lows. If I had it where my cursor was, there's still plenty of room for a second leg down. And if it truly was where I ended up putting the bottom of the trading range, there's a lot of room down. So I'm also basing I'm basing a potential of a bounce off this purple line, but this is a third touch confirmation of a very kind of weak, slow, I guess, slow uptrend. So this is, although this bounced really strongly, there's also a very big signal bar. It's like 3.25. I'm just reluctant. I would just kind of do is wait and see. Unfortunately, it flashes up. So you would, if you were aggressive and you took the trade, you probably would have gotten your points. But then if you waited too long, thinking it's going to come back up to here, this big, gigantic 7-point candle flushes all the way back down. That would make me super nervous. Then it flashes back up. Seeing this in real time, I was super happy that I didn't try to take this trade because look at these gigantic candles. Which way is it going to go? It's hard to say because you thought it was going to keep going up after this bullish push up. It fools you by coming completely back down, then it completely pushes back up. What's the next candle going to do? I have no idea, but I'm not going to take a trade long or short. It kind of looks like it stalls. Then you have a doji. So that should have you very cautious because this is clearly indecision now. You don't know which side's going to win after this previously crazy price action. Then it pushes back up, starts to break through. It doesn't touch the purple, but it looks like it's having some resistance here. But then it finally breaks up and breaks through. It touches the top of this purple trend, purple uptrend, excuse me, purple up channel. So now I do trust this purple up channel a lot more now because it had one touch, two touch, three touch. It also has these confirmations at the top. Unfortunately, we're running really close to the end of the day, so there's no more price action. But had this type of setup happen with this trading range earlier in the day, then I would have started to look for trades based upon the bounce or rejections off this purple. But unfortunately, you're entering the last 10 minutes where price action just gets really, really choppy and volatile. So I didn't really even look for any more trades after that because it's definitely not worth taking a chance when it's so close to the close. That's kind of how I saw the trades today. Definitely the one trade that I took in hindsight wasn't the best. It was definitely more dicey. And if I had waited a little longer, a better setup showed up. But fortunately, I was already in and out of the trade, and I was just kind of taking a breather, taking a pause, knowing that I probably lucked out the one trade that I took. So hopefully that was helpful.